Okay, CQ, the old friends net. CQ, the old friends net. This is N4LQ, November 4, Lima, Quebec. Steve in Shelby, North Carolina. Calling CQ, the old friends net. Meets here every night at 8 p.m. on 1864. We are a directed net. We make a list of check-ins and we operate in the round table fashion. We operate strictly AM, and anybody wishing to check in, please call now.
WFW.
For NKL.
W4GZ. That's a good sounded bunch. Let's see, I show WF2U, WB4NKL, W4GUZ. Any more check-ins? Somebody way up on 1868, but wasn't within my passband. I saw it on the scope. I guess somebody's tuning up. Any further check-ins? Call in for LQ. I guess you'll get tuned up one more time. CQ, the old friends net, waiting for check-ins. Call N4LQ now, please. Okay, well, we got a carrier popping up about 3 kcs up the band or so. No modulation. So anyway, hope we're ready for a nice chilly night. It's already 29, and I'm sure you guys up in the hills are going to have a lot lower temperature, especially Brandon. And I think tomorrow night is the big night for coldness. Anyway, we're running the good old AF-67, driving the AL-82, and the NFED half-wave antenna. So, take it away, Mir, WF2U, N4LQ.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. Steve, Cliff, Brian. Well, I didn't hear Brian yet. But Cliff has good signal, and you too, Steve, with a noise meter Kenwood Marine transceiver. Yeah. Anyway, I'm going to tomorrow. I'll be doing a little work here. The only thing I need to get the DX100B on 160 is a big extent, like maybe a 15 feet extension coax cable, because my 160 meter antenna lead only reaches to this operating position. So the other thing is almost on the other side of the room. So I need an extension, which I'm going to make. I have the coax, I have connectors, I have the double female, so I have no problems extending it. So I'll do it tomorrow, tune it up, and there we go. So see how that goes tomorrow night. Anyway, so that's from here. And I wonder, I also mentioned in the email to the old transmitter about that audio monitor panel, the 19-inch panel that I got. That some people were raving about it, and indeed, it sounds awesome. And the price was right, and it looks cool. So I'll put it in the rack. After I load some receivers in there, I just had to put a telephone type rack together from what is assembled, and I have several receivers and stuff that I have to put up there. Anyway, so W4NKL, WF2U.
Yeah, WF2U, WB4NKL. Okay, Mayor. I've seen that audio amp. It looks pretty neat. I guess all the speakers are on that panel. It looked like there was maybe 3. You said something about a subwoofer amp. I wonder if that center cutout was the low frequency and the left and right high frequencies on either side of it. But I've never seen anything quite like that. But it'd be interesting to. It'd be a lot of audio anyway. Probably sound pretty decent. Yeah, it's still about 23 here last time I looked, but they're calling for about 10 degrees tonight, and then a high tomorrow of 16, and then down to 0 or below Saturday night. So I guess when I shut down the Radio Shack out here tonight, I probably won't be back till Monday. Just gonna be too tough to keep it heated up. So I've been working out here today and had the heat on, so I left it on till after the net, and then I'll shut it down and take a couple of days break. I guess if I'm on the radio, it'd be on 3885 or 3715 there Sunday from the basement shack. So, Brandon, I got the video of the inside. I guess that's the last time we'll see it like that, empty of the container. I guess it's going to start filling up from here on. So go ahead. Did you get the Ranger tuned up on the 160 W4GUZs, WB4NKL?
Oh yeah. Good evening, everybody. WB4NKL, W4GUZ. I sure did. It's purring along like a kitten in the case, and doing well. Pretty much on frequency. I hadn't touched it since I cut it off earlier. Going the wrong way. Anyway, it's got you beat, Cliff. It's 19 degrees here. I think last I heard we're supposed to get down to 8, which is better than 4, like we had the other night. So, well, probably 2+ inches. It's still snowing. It may be, Cliff, it may be some of the snow that fell from the clouds above your house, the way the wind's blowing. We was eating, and there's one gust that was 26 miles an hour, which ain't terrible, but that's quite a bit down here in the valley. I'd say it's a pretty rough night up on Grandfather Mountain. I don't know if they broke their old wind speed record yet or not. Again on the Ranger 1, and listening on a SX28 here with the Chinese TR relay frequency counter box. This will be going to a friend here soon. Anyway, got my ears lowered today. Everything in town was closed, but I did manage to buy an almost ridiculous amount, but just shy of $5 for a quart of buttermilk and thought we was having cornbread, but she made fried cornbread. It's like tater cakes for those that's had them, but oh, it's good. And pork chops, grown and killed on staggerweed, and baked potato from across the creek. Fixed it in the wood stove down here, so quite a meal tonight. So we're right in the middle of a movie, so I told her I'd make it short and sweet. I'll hang in here for one or two more, but everybody's sounding good here tonight. And I'm not sure who I turn it to, because I was switching back to the receiver after I keyed in. So, Steve, take the reins. N4LQ W4GZ.
All right, you got it right. This N4LQ. Do we have any more check-ins?
W4JPL.
Yep, W4JPL. Anybody else? All right, go ahead, John, make a transmission, then turn it back to me.
All right, well, good evening, everyone. W4JPL here, 34 degrees. Got 0.01 inches of rain. I don't know what that's all about, because the other rain gauge thingy doesn't say a thing. And got some stuff done today, more house stuff, and worked on that National 303. Finished cleaning it up, more or less, and put some power to it, and it works. Got a little bit of a hum, and it'll clean up nicely. So now begins the arduous job of recapping. So fortunately, I have all the caps in stock that I need to do it. I ordered one of those little bases. What do they call them? A multi-section capacitor mounting plate that you can basically pull the old cap off and put this new thing right in its place, and it'll look nice and neat. So I'll tell you what, the audio people have got into those things. I guess for fixing old tube amps and whatnot, and they are charging stupid money for those things. Originally, there was a guy, what was on QRZ selling these things, and I couldn't find it, so I just did a Google search, and finally I found a guy selling at a reasonable price on eBay of all places, so I got those coming, and when I get those in a week or so, I'll install that. I'll pull the cap out and the can out in the meantime when I'm doing it. So cleaned up the knobs just before it came up a little while ago, and they're out drying. I'll reinstall them tomorrow, or when I feel like it. N4LQ, W4JPL.
All right, W4JPL, N4LQ. Well, that's good information. I never had heard of that. I just looked it up on Google. A multi-section capacitor board, and it's shaped like the bottom of a can capacitor with little holes to solder in your radial lead capacitors. There's a good use for them right there. And I guess it looks neat. Maybe, I don't know, either that or you put them underneath, or you, I don't really, I've stuffed a few cans, restuffed them, and that's kind of a weird thing to be doing. It's kind of hard to do, make it look right anyway. Hey, I got a test to run here real quick on the audio. I'm going to pop this head off. I already got it loose. I'm on the D104. This is the Silver Eagle head, and I got a Kobe tone head here. I'm just going to pull this off. Stand by. Okay, now I'm on the Kobe tone, and looks like it may need a little bit more gain. There, we turn that up a little bit, and let me know what you think about the difference in the audio characteristics of this versus the Silver Eagle. I'll go back to it. Stand by. Okay, back on the Silver Eagle, and I'm tightening up the threads. So, let's see. I had, first of all, Mir and his speaker. I found that very interesting, and I even went and read the manual, which was interesting, and they're making the same claim that computer speakers, desktop computer speakers, make about being so-called near-field speakers designed for a distance of 1 to 2 feet away, or up to 3 feet at the most, from the ears. So I guess they were popular for use in broadcast stations, probably still are, or PA systems where the audio guy can, from the control room can stand there and listen to those speakers and get some idea of what's being pumped out to the public, and the level meters, which are nice, and I don't know what the frequency response of those probably doesn't go down below 100 cycles, I guess. And there was a subwoofer output. I noticed that. Yeah, I wondered too, Cliff, about what that extra black spot in the middle was. I didn't notice that until too late. So on the coax, hope you can get that together, and get here on 160 with your DX60 mirror. I'm wondering why there's so many of those speaker systems available on eBay. They're just all over the place, and that one brand is very popular. So maybe something got more modernized, or the need went away, or something. So, Cliff, I got an idea to keep warm there in that shack. I hate to see a big QRT for any reason. And how about getting yourself a curtain of some sort just to quarantine off the area around where you sit, around the radios there, and forget about the rest of the place, and then put you a little heater in that area. And it probably wouldn't take much to heat a small area just where you're sitting, paying attention to fire safety, of course. Let's see. And Brandon on the Ranger sounds great. I like the sound of it. SX28. Now, I did have a question on this Chinese relay frequency counter. Chinese relay, that sounds familiar. I think I've got one of those. TR relay, but frequency counter, is that something that's integral to that, or just a separate contraption? And so there you go. Anybody else want to check in before we go for another round? Okay, WF2U, and comment on the mic. This is N4LQ.
Roger, N4LQ at the group WF2U. Well, good evening, John, also, as you checked in. And a couple of things. I didn't hear much of it. Maybe the Silver Eagle is a bit sharper, but I didn't notice that much of a difference. In fact, you could do that same test again in the next round, and just let me hear it again. Maybe somebody else has a different opinion or already got it. Anyway, well, I read the manual carefully, and there is a response curve. Altogether, with the small speakers, each speaker is one channel. Let's say if you're feeding stereo in, then it's going to be stereo when it's left, when it's right, or you can feed separate channels in it. This middle one is the low frequency, speaker, and it actually takes both channels. And interestingly enough, that output, that amplifier output is 25 watts, while each small speaker is 10 watts. It's one big integrated amplifier in it, with the 3 outputs. Well, anyway, so the response curve is there, and I wrote it in my email that the 6 dB down response is from 70 hertz to, what was it? Let me check my mail again, because I'm not looking at the, hold on 1 second. It's mail. And now it's 15 kilohertz. So it's the response down to the 6 dB point, which you do in voltage, because that's the voltage output. So that would be equivalent of the power like the 3 dB in a filter for any kind of that kind of response. So it's 6 dB, the range is 70 hertz to 15 kilohertz. And each speaker, the sucker is really heavy. According to the manual, each speaker is enclosed in a acoustic chamber. I mean, I think that's why the sucker is so heavy. And all the 3 speakers, and in the manual they warn you, do not touch them or don't disassemble them. When I was using it, I checked, I was about 3 feet from it and went to the side, and I could still hear it. I mean, it was only some single sideband and AM. I was scanning over 40 meters and 80 meters with the receiver, and that's what I was listening to. I used the M6300. And then I also, on the other channel, I set the PMR7, so I could just get one channel or the other, or I could go on the same station with both. I split the antenna. I just split the leads from one antenna to the receivers, so I could listen to both. And so that's the idea. But I was really impressed because they definitely sound better than the amplified computer speakers, which I have several also for the same purpose. I have some receivers that I set them up with that, and some bookshelf speakers. So whatever I have racked, I think that's the kind of speakers I'm going to use, because if I'm using something on the rack, I'm obviously sitting in front of it. And so that's the story. And Brian, if you're using the Ranger, then it sounds pretty good. Anyway, Cliff, you're pretty strong here, and too bad that you have to give up getting into your shack in the cold. And I used to have that kind of problem here in the detached building until I broke down and self-installed a split AC. And about 1.5 tons.
He's still talking.
And
Oh yeah.
I keep the shack at 68 degrees summer and winter. So anyway, so back to you there, Cliff. WB4NKL and the Grove WF2U.
WF2U, WB4NKL. Okay, Mir. Yeah, it would be kind of hard to section it off like you're talking about, Steve, right now, but that is my long-range plan. Is I'm going to, the building's 30 by 32, and then it's got a high ceiling. It's about 15 feet at the peak, or 18 feet, I think, 18 feet at the peak. And it slopes down to about 12 foot on the edges. But I'm going to section off a 10 by 30 with a 7-foot ceiling in there and insulate all that separately. And put up a regular door, going into that section. So I think if I insulate it real well and 10 by 30, I can heat that without any problem for the small heater. So that's a long-range plan, but I've got to do a lot of moving to even be able to accomplish that, moving stuff around. And so that's by next winter. It won't happen this winter. By next winter, I'll try to have something in place to where I don't have to vacate. And then that 10 by 30 will give me a ham shack and a workbench that I can use year-round. I've got a heat pump in here now that I bought from a guy secondhand. Well, it wasn't secondhand, it was dented. It was had some some problems. They couldn't sell it, so I put it in here. It's a 3-ton. It does pretty good. It'll heat it down to about right now it's 65 in here. So it does a pretty good job, but it's costly to run it, especially when it gets any colder. And it does a real good job on air conditioning the whole building in the summer, so that's not a problem. But I'll work on partitioning a shack off here before too long. The microphone, Steve, sounded like the Kobe tone maybe had a little wider response. That's the impression I got. It like it had a little more range. Both of them sounded good. I wouldn't say there was any problem with either one of them. And John, good deal on the NC303. I thought most of that was disc capacitors. It's been a while since I've been in the mine, but I didn't remember being a lot of paper capacitors. And I have used those little wafers, printed circuit wafers like you're talking about. I've ordered them from a place called M Squared. It's up in Canada. And I've got both sizes. I've got the small can and the big can. The small can's got a place for 3 radial capacitors, and the big can's got a place for up to 4 radial capacitors. But it makes a neat job. And I ordered. I thought they were a little high, but I ordered several of them, and I've about used them up. I'm gonna have to check into it again, so I might look at your source and see if it's any cheaper than what I bought. But this place was M Squared Circuits. It said it's designed in Canada, and I think I told Brandon. I think Brandon might have ordered some of those too. So send it on around. Go ahead, Brandon. W4GUZ is WB4NKL.
Okay, Cliff. Yeah, WB4NKL, W4GUZ. You actually, you turned me on to those. I had a little fit trying to find the correct website, but I ordered 6, I think. I got 1, maybe 2 left. I'll have to look here in my drawer. Well, they're right there. I think I've got a couple left, but yeah, they're the ticket, especially with the smaller capacitors these days. It's amazing how much they've shrunk over the years. Steve, I'll have to agree to disagree with Cliff. On the old helicopters here, I thought the Silver Eagle filled out the speaker better, but I wouldn't, like he said, I wouldn't throw either one of them away. They're very, very close to each other. And the frequency counter, it's just a little thing I threw together using the old cabinet, but it's a Chinese freak counter with an American relay. I don't know if that's, I can't remember if that's a Dayton relay or what, Cliff, but anyway, courtesy of Cliff. So I just got 3 SO239s on the back, place to hook up the transmitter, and then relay connections on the side for a mutant circuit with the freak counter in the front. It says I'm just a touch low. I think these $10 Chinese frequency counters are the ticket. Got a $100 plus Hewlett Packard over here. I need to really compare them down the nitty-gritty. But yeah, let's see. Guys, I'm going to cut it short and get back to the movie. Remember Terry? He had another surgery and not doing too good. Just remember him in prayer. He's still headstrong, so that's half the battle. But just keep him in your prayers. John, you're sounding good. Not sure what you're on. You're not on the Globe King 500 or the Johnson 500, I bet. I'd say the ICOM or the Valiant. Either way, you're sounding good up this way tonight. On 160, and I'm so glad you guys decided to go back to AM. You put it well, Steve. Slot bucket is boring. W4JPL to take it, and I'm on the 160 loop and the little bitty Ballon here that's not getting hot tonight. Looks good. 1.03 on the LP100, so holding steady. And on line voltage here, I had it on the Variac earlier. Line voltage here, 123 volts right now. About 45 watts and modulating 100% every bit of it. So that's the story. W4JPL 73. And we'll do it again tomorrow, Lord willing. W4GUZ.
Okay, W4GUZ, W4JPL, fine business. I'm running the 7610, feeding that into my KPA 500 to give me some more horsepower. So that's what I'm running tonight. That's all I got to run, really. And I'd be running the 500, but it don't go on 160, so it is what it is, and as a great philosopher Popeye once said, I am what I am. So, Steve, where I bought these mounting things, I paid like $14 a piece for them, and the music places are getting like $40 and $50. I was like, no, I don't know where I originally found them because they were cheaper, a lot cheaper than that, but the website is sledseats.com. And that 13 or 14 bucks, whatever it was shipped. So I bought 2 of the 4 bangers because the NC400 needs 4 capacitors. I hope it fits in a hole. I'll figure that out when I get them. Johnson mobile transmitters with the VFO. There's 2 of them on eBay right now, and they want really stupid money for them. So I wouldn't mind having one of the VFOs to go with my mobile, but after I started thinking about it for a while, I got 2 VFOs here I could use. I got one of those Heathkit, HG10 VFOs, and I also have Johnson VF1, I think it is VFO. So I'm going to get out of here, boys, but I will be listening for a while. Hope everybody has a great night, and I'll talk to you guys later on. N4LQ, W4JPL.
Okay, well, 73s to you, and John and Brandon, and thanks for checking in tonight. And okay, boy, those things are expensive. I'd have a hard time shelling out that much money for something like that. Yeah, just mount them on terminal strips underneath and make them look neat. And you can just leave the original one in there. The things have gotten so small, there's plenty of room under most chassis anyway. But I see some here, a 4-pack for $20. Got to be sure they would fit the capacitor you've got though. And they're from overseas, so I haven't looked around too much for them. This is N4LQ. Do we have any further check-ins? Call now. Oh, too bad. Okay. Well, let's see. I guess it was kind of a draw on the microphones. Kind of a draw on the audio. So I'm not going to worry about it. I thought I could hear it. To me, it sounded like the Kobe tone didn't have as much bass, but then looking at the response on the curve, it looked like it had more, and I'm like, oh, don't know, I can't tell. But it does seem like the output is a little bit more on the Silver Eagle. Of course, I've got 2 of those here. Well, let's see. I've got another experiment here I can do. I can switch over to the Valiant. Now, it's got a different D104 on it. I think all I got to do is flip a couple of switches. Stand by. Okay, this is the Valiant, a little low in frequency. N4LQ on the Johnson Valiant. So you might give me a opinion on that next. I'm sure it shouldn't be quite as strong. It's only 115 watts versus 300 and something. Anyhow, let's see here. Comments. So much for the test, and fine on the room that you got planned. That sounds really neat. Sort of reminds me of your typical horse barn. You know, you've got an office in the barn, and I bet you it would be super easy to air condition or heat because it's so enclosed, and it's not going to have any wind on it or anything, so it shouldn't take much insulation for that. That's so big too, 30 feet. 30 feet by 10 feet. I don't know if I would try to make it more square or what I would do. Have to give some thought to that. Of course, with that kind of situation, you can make it 2 stories. You got a tall enough ceiling. Anyway, and Brandon, thanks for the info on the relay frequency counter. I know what you're doing now. That's fine. Okay, let's turn it around one more time. WF2U, N4LQ.
Yeah, okay, Steve, N4LQ, WF2U. Yeah, okay, comment on the Valiant. It sounds a little fuzzier than the AF-67. Somehow the audio is not as defined. It's like a little fuzzy around the edges. I mean, it's not distorting, but it sounds different. And again, you know, it's a combination of the audio circuits with the microphone, and one microphone might sound different than the other with that. But definitely, I could hear a difference. The signal strength didn't change that much. You're just a little weaker, but absolutely no significant difference. As far as I can hear, again, I have no meter here to make an actual kind of comparison. So that's what oh yeah, about heating a place. My building here, my radio room that was built specifically for that purpose. It's It's a pole barn type of thing with metal outside. It's the same construction as they make barns. It's the same company that builds barns and and sheds and garages, standalone garages and stuff like that. With my specifications, and I have a high ceiling also, I could have actually lowered the ceiling that I put in here. It's really a high top because I built a gallery in here. I have an 8-foot ceiling, which I determined it would be 8 feet, and that's where I built the gallery at that level, and I can stand up in the middle of the roof, you know, where the two sloping parts meet, and then I can walk about 4 or 5 feet to each side before I have to bend down, and I use that for storage of some loose stuff and parts and all kinds of junk in boxes. And I have a power winch, an electric hoist actually. If I have something heavy to lift up there, I hoist it up to the gallery level, and then I go up on a ladder and just pull it in. So that reminds me, I have to take up a whole bunch of things to be able to put something else in here, because I have a lot of stuff that I went through, and it's on the boxes, in the boxes and boxes on top of boxes. I have to walk sideways between the aisles, which I don't like, but I was too lazy to put it up for the last year. Anyway, so this is, so as I said, it's 24 by 24 with an extra high ceiling, and so my split air conditioning is 1.5 tons, and it was do-it-yourself. In other words, it was all pre-filled with the coolant, and it had valves on it, so when I had to make the connections and finish the installation, all I had to do is just open up the valve and check for leaks, and it was ready to go. It's been on now for about 3 years, non-stop. It's just set at 68 degrees, cold or hot outside. Anyway, so that's the story. So, back to you there, Cliff. WB4NKL, WF to you.
WF2U, WB4NKL. I've already got a second floor in part of it, Steve, and that's the reason for the shape I'm going to make the room, is that second floor is just 10 foot by the width of the building, 10 by 30, so I'm going to put the Radio Shack, which is there already. I just need to box it in to one long wall. It's the two outside walls are already insulated, so I'll just have to build one 30-foot wall and put a door in it and insulation. So it's not going to be too bad of a deal, but like I say, I have to move some stuff to do it, so I'm not going to start it till warmer weather. I couldn't tell. I was over there on the computer, the other side of the room, looking up the capacitor boards, and I couldn't tell much difference when you went to the Johnson. I wasn't looking at the meter, but you're strong here on both of them, so the audio sounded about the same to me over there. But I looked up these capacitor boards. It's m2circuits.com, spelled out, m2circuits.com, and they're you got to buy two at a time. The way they got them laid out on the circuit board there's two of them on the little board. and they got they're $10 for two, so they're $5 a piece, and they're real high quality circuit boards. And I order the capacitors from Mauser. You got to get the right diameter. It's sort of a tall, skinny one that fits it. Panasonic, and there's some other companies that Mauser sells fits it, and they work out real well. So $5 a piece. I think John must he got ripped off there. Sounds like, but it takes them a while. I've ordered a couple times from them. It takes them a while to get them here from Canada for some reason, but like I say, it's a good solution. Let's see, Brandon signed out, John signed out. Back to you, Steve. N4LQ, WB4NKL.
WB4NKL, N4LQ. Very good. M squared. I'm sitting here looking at the website right now, and looks like it's geared mostly toward audio type guitar people. But yeah, well, just another tool in the box, as they say. I'm just about ready to build my own power supply anyway. Start from scratch. This I've got the circuit memorized, and I sat here a while ago and just drew it out by hand from memory, and there's not much to it. At first it seemed complicated when I first started working with it, and once I stripped away all the vibrator stuff and simplified the switching and all that, it's really quite simple. But anyway, I don't have room for those canned capacitors and the vibrator anyway. That's where the choke is going to have to go. That's the way I did this one for Lee, which I'm using right now. It's got the best filtering. I've got another one here that I did with a, let's see, 6 Henry choke, and I can tell the difference between that and this toroid. I think it's 8, and I can see just a little bit of ripple. So that choke is pretty important. I can hear it too in the monitor receiver. So if you want the best filtering, you gotta do it right. Well, I posed a question on the group Reflector about choosing values for a choke input filter and how to go about it, and I kind of left it open to the group to try to give me some answers. I don't know if anybody's interested enough to attempt that, and I don't really have the answer. I've been going around and around with AI, ChatGPT. I asked it about the resonant frequency of the choke input filter. It is a series filter with the choke and the capacitor in series, and I sort of asked it if it was important to try to have those at some resonant frequency that the ripple, being like 120 cycles, would you want the two components to resonate at 120? And man, that thing it went nuts trying to explain what to do, and I got in an argument with it, and I finally kind of gave up. But that is so common with that thing. It gives you some boneheaded answer to begin with. It doesn't even make sense. And then you start asking it questions about it, and it starts apologizing and changing its mind, and then it contradicts itself within 2 sentences. So it's not very good for electronics. It's good to just have something to go back and forth with, and it gives you a few formulas and what have you. But it kind of thinks that, I think what it's thinking is that you want the resonant frequency of the two components to be a lot lower than the ripple frequency. But of course, a series circuit at resonance is a very low impedance. I don't think it can go any lower than that, but I don't know. Anyway, just kind of put it out there for the group to bat it around, see if anybody comes up with an answer. Let me check one more time, see if anybody else is on. wants to check in, and if not, we'll close the formalities and just open it up to whatever. This N4LQ. Anybody else want to check in? Okay, nothing heard. Well, okay, so I guess we'll just call this our 73 round. So, Mir, go ahead. WF2U, N4LQ.
Yeah, N4LQ, WF2U. It's not that cold yet. It's going to get colder in the morning. Towards morning, it's 29 degrees in my digital weather station here. And it's funny because in the afternoon I saw it dip to 27 and then it went up again. Anyway, oh yeah, I just saw that thing. Actually, the way you drew it, it's not a choke input. It's not a choke input. It's a capacitor input because you're taking the. If I recall, looking at the schematic, before as soon as I sat down here, I opened the mail just to see if anything new is coming in, and I just saw it briefly, and then I started to fiddle around with the radios here. I have to go back to it, but if I recall, the way you drew it, the input was a capacitor input actually, and the choke was less. Well, first of all, you want high impedance. Actually, what you're doing is not. You don't need the. You're not doing resonance in there. Actually, what you're doing is first of all you're smoothing out the top. You're smoothing out a little bit with a capacitor. The valleys between the sine wave, the sinusoid valleys that you get from the rectifier. You just get those pulses. Half of the sine wave, and then the capacitor simply extends it a little bit to a certain point until the next pulse comes in. And then what the choke does, that it has high impedance for the 120 hertz, and then you would normally put the output capacitor, although the voltage peak is higher than with one capacitor on the input, but then the filtering is not as good. So you if anything, you do the choke input first, and not the capacitor input. It's only using one choke and one capacitor. So, but the choke just has to have an impedance, highest possible impedance for 120 hertz. And so think of it as a filter, and not a resonance circuit. It's either an L filter or a pi filter, and you can calculate the optimum for that. But I'll look at it again. It's been 25 years, almost 30 years since I designed the power supplies and stuff like that the last time, so I just have to look back a little bit at the formula. But that's in a nutshell how it works. That it's a filter. Think of it as a filter, not as a resonance circuit. So That's about it. So tomorrow I'll be on the Midwest Military Radio Collectors Group at 10 o'clock on 7296 upper side then. I'll use the Harris for it, probably will need a little bit power, although I used the ICOM noise transceiver last week and it was satisfactory. So I usually have both of them are standby, my Harris 500 watt system and this, depending on the conditions, I use one or the other. So 73, take care of Cliff and Steve. Will chat tomorrow. Just keep warm. WB4 and KL. WFTU. Good night, 73.
And WF2U, WB4NKL, 73's Mayor. And Steve, I'm working on something like that. I look back in the old handbooks and see what they were using back when they were using choke input filters and resonant circuits. I never did try to make one resonant. I know some of the old Motorola base stations, I think they did, and what they did was they actually tuned the choke by putting a capacitor in parallel with it, like a 0.1 or some lower value capacitor. And I'm not sure what they were tuning. I guess probably 120 cycles, I guess is what you'd want to, but that was where they were tuning. It was they had the choke, just like a choke input filter, but they had a small value capacitor in parallel with it to tune it to the probably 120 cycles, but whatever you're trying to filter out. And I don't think it mattered so much about the value of the choke or the value of the output capacitor, as long as you got the choke and the little parallel capacitor tuned. But I never did get into designing one or messing with that. I usually just when I build power supplies, I look around at what I've got and I design around what I've got. And I've built about 4 ART-13 power supplies, 3 Elmacs, and various others over the years, but that's usually what I've been buying those Antec transformers lately, but I usually just look at what I've got and design the circuit around that, whatever it takes. So that's a cheap way out. 73s, enjoyed it. And like I say, I probably won't be back around till the weather warms up, at least above 30. So catch you probably on 3885, maybe somewhere. N4LQ, WB4NKL.
Okay. I'll keep an eye out here on the lake, and I start seeing the geese heading north. I know you'll be back on 160. Yeah, 32V2, or I guess any of the 32Vs had that choke with a capacitor across it. I know that because one of them blew up on me and made a mess. It was an oil-filled, I think it was a 0.5 microfarad oil-filled, rather small oil-filled job, but I think it was intended to resonate at like a parallel tune circuit and produce an even higher impedance to the ripple that way. But apparently it had enough voltage across that it overheated and exploded. It was kind of in a closed compartment back in the lower rear end of the chassis. But it sure filled it up with oil and made a big mess. I found one somewhere from a surplus company and the exact replacement. Okay, I guess that's about it, folks. We'll just go ahead and say 73s and shut the net down for the night. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. This is N4LQ. Good night.
Good night, Al.
Good night, 73.